From the heartland of America, focused on God, family, and country, the mouthpiece of the Midwest. This is Dale Carter's America.
Well, we're back with a very important episode of Dale Carter's America. Really only one topic today, but we're going to look at it from several different angles. Tariffs are in the news, and tariffs are going to be part of today's podcast. We are brought to you, of course, by Bob Watson, Blue Springs State Farm agent for 50 years. Bob's at 7th and Main in Blue Springs. You can reach him at 816-229-7878. Auto, home, life, commercial insurance. This weekend, it's like we took a step back to winter again, but spring is going to come. Summer's right behind it. You're going to get the pontoon boat out. Do you have insurance on it? Anything you care about ought to have insurance on it. Bundle your home and car insurance and save even more. Bob is the man for both Missouri and Kansas. He just happens to be officed in Blue Springs, Missouri at 7th and Main. Call him and get a rate quote, 816-229-7878. I am Dale Carter. He is Kurt Wheeler. Show him your face.
I'm back.
He's back.
I'm back. Woo.
I'm telling you, that means we got the cord from Amazon, and it was probably made in China, and we got it before the tariffs went in.
I love China.
Yeah.
So we've got a lot to talk about today. Mark Falter is on the program, and Mark is one of the smartest people I know when it comes to money. And Dave Ramsey's another one. And Dave Ramsey has a great saying on this: don't get advice about money from broke people.
Yeah, right.
Look at somebody who's made some money and knows how to manage money, and that is Mark Falter. We are going to talk about tariffs, everything from Wall Street with Mark to some juicy hypocrisy. This may shock you, but, as you say, show the receipts. And we have a lot of video footage of Democrats who are now saying, tariffs are terrible, Orange Man bad.
Right.
And we've got some tape where they were saying singing a different tune.
Well, they've all been in Congress for like 70 years, so they've had every possible position on every possible topic at some point.
We've got a video with Nancy Pelosi, and she looks kind of like a hottie.
Yeah.
She doesn't look like the gum-flapping drunk that she is today.
Yeah, well,
it was
she had her day.
And it's in color, too, which is equally surprising. Then we'll also talk about what the future might look like for America. So it's a very meaty podcast episode today. And we thank Dr. Mark Taramina for being part of the podcast. He is the official colonoscopist. Is that a word, colonoscopist?
It is now. It is now.
He'll probably correct me on that, but he does colonoscopies, and they're important. If you're 45 or older and you've not had your first colonoscopy yet, let's get that done. Let's mark that off. Put that on your list of things to do, because if you catch colon cancer early, you can beat colon cancer. If you wait and wait and wait, and it's like, I don't want to go through the prep, I don't want to do this, I've got this excuse, whatever, and colon cancer takes hold, that's going to be a tough fight. And I've known people who have lost that fight. Let's get ahead of all of that with your first colonoscopy. The prep's a piece of cake these days. I just had mine done. Dr. Mark Taramina at Midwest GI Health and Wellness. Fantastic people there in Lee's Summit. You don't even need a doctor to send you. Just call them up and get on the schedule. 816-836-2200 on the web at midwestgihealth.com. Tell them we sent you, because we like hearing success stories about how this has saved lives. And then you've got the other end of the spectrum. You're talking like 65-year-olds, and the next thing that's coming for you is Medicare, Social Security, and all that. Well, the Medicare piece of the puzzle, Kirk Doris is the guy you need to talk to. So if you're turning 65 or somebody in your family is, make an appointment, sit down with Kirk Doris, and he will lay it all out for you. Watch out for the scam artists. We just had a story on KFKF this week about a lady who was bilked out of a couple of $1 million over the course of time. It started on Facebook. These folks from Medicare and Social Security are not going to reach out to you on Facebook. They are not going to call you on the phone. Beware of the scammer. And then go with somebody who's got 30 years experience dealing with Medicare. And he's helped thousands of folks in the Kansas City area. So get on the phone, call Kirk Doris at 816-701-6661. They have an office on Nolan Road in Independence, but if it's more convenient, he'll come sit down with you and walk you through the steps for your individual situation. MedicareSimplifiedKC.com. That's the website for Kirk Doris at Medicare Simplified KC.
Tremendous people.
Indeed.
Have you seen the movie The Beekeeper? The newer one with Jason Statham.
Mm.
That's like what it's about. He's like, people are getting scammed out of all this money. And then like Jason Statham is just like some, innocent beekeeper. And he's like, I'm going to go kill all those people. They're taking the money. They're taking the money from the old ladies. I'm going to go kill them.
All right. Can I find that on Netflix?
I think so. Yeah.
All right. Well, I'll look into
it. Might be Amazon. It's Amazon or Netflix, but it's literally what it's about, like people getting scammed. And then, so maybe Jason Statham will come and save you. You never know.
Possible. All right. On to the meatiest part of our podcast today. Well, we liked him so much before the election that we have him back again with us today. He is the founder of Mid-American Wealth Advisory Group, the host of the Retirement Income Hour on KCMO. Mark Falter is with us. Mark, thank you so much for coming back.
Hey, thanks, Dale, for having me. Appreciate it.
I was listening to your show on KCMO on my way here, and it always gives me something to think about. And by way of full disclosure, Mark and I do not have a financial relationship, although I've made quite a bit of money by taking your advice from the radio show. This goes to iShares that I bought at the height of inflation on your advice, and also the opening the pipeline from the 401k when I turned 59 and a half. That was excellent advice as well. So thank you for all of that.
Yeah, that's the point of the show.
You might want to send me a bill.
Yeah.
I don't know. All right. So we had you on before the election. Obviously, we're going to get to tariffs because tariffs are the big issue that are out there right now. But I remember something you said on that podcast episode before the election. You said that if you like the way things are going right now, you should vote for Harris.
Right. And I be honest with you, Dale, just because of where we're at, we're in the Kansas City area. And our state is red, and I'd never have done a demographical test on this, but I'd venture to say 70+% of my clients, probably higher, not lower, are Republican, not Democrat. And I was telling clients that in client reviews, and I stopped doing it because they were getting argumentative with me, thinking that I was turning Democrat on them. I'm like, no, I'm just stating financial information. And I'll tell you that the problem I think people let themselves get into, I think it was such an emotional race that they let themselves get into the misconception that when Trump takes over, everything will be great and life will be great. And then a year it'll be great and 4 years will be great. And what we got is so bad. Because I got to be honest, I mean, let's face it. Joe pretty much getting Alzheimer's while he was in office did not help matters much.
Right.
And that really got people under a misconception. And I said, you got to realize he's got to, first of all, change a lot that was in. But secondly, he's got, what he's actually attempting to do, I actually kind of think he can pull it off. We got a $36 trillion tax bill. Huge. If you don't believe so, go to usdebtclock.org and watch that thing tick. I mean, it is incredible.
36 and a half, by the way, and going up.
Just I bet you, in the time that we have this podcast, it'll probably go up $500 million, just in that short time. It's incredible. So we got to get that under control. So we got to get tax dollars. Now, Elon Musk finding all this stuff that he's doing is not helping matters. I mean, it is helping, but it's making it even harder to want to go out and pay taxes. But Trump's thought process is we can do this one of two ways. We can raise taxes on the American public, or we can get the people that owe us money to pay and get them to pay more. And hence the reason for the tariffs. And frankly, I don't have a problem with that because here's really where he's trying to go. He's trying to get the 2017 tax codes to extend for another 3.5 years.
Right.
We can do that. Actually, he's trying to take the corporate tax down from 21%, which came down from 40 down to 21 pre-2017, getting it down to 15 because he's trying to get manufacturing back in America. So in this process, this is not just a flick light switch on, flick light switch off thing. This is a process. If you listen to him in the State of the Union address, he said he was going to do this. He says he's going to need some runway. He didn't tell us how much runway he was going to need and how many bumps were in that runway. Yeah, it's really set the market off. Yeah.
It has. And when you say lower that corporate rate, do you think that would, in part with the tariffs going into place, entice that manufacturing back to the United States?
Yeah. Oh, yeah. Yeah. Heck yeah. Yeah. Because, well, think about it for a minute. Probably some of your listeners have been to Des Moines, Iowa. Go to Des Moines, Iowa, and drive down the main streets and count the insurance companies. There's probably more insurance companies in Iowa than there are casinos in Las Vegas. And that's probably not an exaggeration. I mean, you can see American Equity, F&G, you can see them all right there on the same. That's because they did some tax advantages for insurance companies years ago. And so, yes, it definitely does help. It definitely does help.
Okay. Well, I look at it as a consumer, and of all the things that I voted for Donald Trump for him to do, this was at the bottom of my list because I don't know a whole lot about it, which is why we have a guy like you on, because I look at it as a consumer, and all of a sudden we put these tariffs on China, to use China as an example.
Yeah.
So the cheap crap that my wife buys, the Amazon truck stops literally every day in front of our house.
Yeah.
It all comes from China. So
Right.
as a consumer, I look at it as a tax increase on me. Is that the right way to look at it?
No, I think it's kind of a little bit of a wrong way. It's a I guess you could look at it that way, but here's the thing. Okay.
Yeah, because you're dealing with ignorance here, so we need a light shown on all of this.
American people in general have a very, very short memory. And in the investment business, unfortunately, you can't have a short memory, or at least work with the guys that don't have a short memory, because they got to go back and back test stuff that happened years and years and years ago. We got there were three main things that happened when the 2017 tax codes, and we've grown accustomed to them. One was they made the actual tax brackets lower. The 12 went to 10, the 15 went to 12, and so forth on. So they actually made them lower. They also extended them, meaning that you could stay in the same bracket longer. But by far and away, the big thing that we've gotten used to is the standard deduction. The standard deduction, your standard deduction is probably $26,000. I haven't even asked you this, but I'll bet you don't itemize. Nobody
Not
itemizes.
anymore. Nope.
No, nobody itemizes. 94% of the public don't itemize. You got to understand, in 2016, 50% of the public was itemizing. I mean, they weren't getting 26,000. Okay, so if and when that goes away, your prices at Amazon are going to seem like a cakewalk.
Wow.
And we don't want that going away. And that's what he's trying to do. But in the process of doing that, he's got to get China to pay. Well, in the process of doing that, then they come back and say, well, we're going to raise and take it up further. And it's kind of so another thing to do, if you haven't read it, just type in, this is what my analyst reminded me of the other night when I called him. And I called him and I said, DePon, I said, how deep are we going to go here, man? But he says, you need to go back and reread The Art of the Deal. All you got to do is go into ChatGPT. What's The Art of the Deal cover? You'll realize this is I don't want to say Trump is bluffing, but let's put it this way. Trump doesn't come in low. He comes in really high.
No doubt about that.
So this is a deal going on. Yeah.
One of the things that I saw, because I don't know a whole lot about this, but just, as a novice at this, when he brings out the chart and he shows you what all of the other countries of the world are charging for American-made goods going into their country, it just seems fair that we ought to charge them for goods coming into our country.
It is totally fair. It's totally fair. But again, there's no, it's just kind of like going to, I mean, if you probably some of the listeners here have had knee replacements, have had hip replacements, have had work done by orthopedic surgeons.
Right.
If they could film that and show you the film of what they have to do before they fix you, you wouldn't want to see the film. Well, that's what he's in the process of doing. He's breaking some things, and you got to, and he can't put us to sleep for it, though.
Yeah. So, but when you think of this country, and I could be wrong on this too, but I would think that from a consumer consumption perspective, we're probably number one in the world.
100%, and that's why he's doing this.
Yeah.
And when China comes back and says, "Oh, we got one up on you," if we stop manufacturing the iPhone in China, they would be in worse shape than they already are. And Canada, to have the audacity to, it's kind of like this whole thing with Ukraine. They don't have the wherewithal to be able to do that. We are the number one consumer in the world, and the world cannot afford for us not to consume from them. I was just over in Germany here 6 months ago, and I didn't realize all the John Deere plants that are over there that were manufacturing John Deere.
Wow.
So yeah, we're wanting to try to get some of that back into America, and I think long term, I think it's going to be better. And people have got to remind themselves that had we stayed where we were at, we could potentially, and this is not an exaggeration, we could potentially be in World War III, because Kamala was not going to back up Israel. She was going to let them, and that was not going to end well. Yeah.
Well, back to the short-term thinking, two questions on that. How concerned should we be about the drastic sell-off on Wall Street? And is this a buying opportunity if you have some cash on the side?
Yes, it's a buying opportunity, but I'd wait a little while. We're talking probably give it about 30 days. Don't mark me down on that. I'm not Nostradamus, but I would definitely say we want to wait on that a little bit. But I was on a radio show yesterday, and we were talking about, I had said this about a year ago, that, hey, it's going to be bumpy if you're in the market and you're 3 to 5 years out from retirement or in retirement. Great time to reallocate. I would say that reallocation in the next week or two might not be a terrible idea. Here's the opportunity that's upon that 72-year-old right now. Even with the last week of down market, your stuff is still up from where it was 2 years ago. And if you decide to make some reallocations into more safe items, those safe items are paying 3 and 4%. Now, if you rewind 3 years, you had to sell at a loss and make 0.00%.
Right.
So it's not a terrible time to be doing that, but you really should have done it back 6-8 months ago. But now, if you're under 50 or that money is going to be there more than 5 years, yeah, just don't do nothing and just try to accumulate more cash. I'll tell you, if I was putting any sizable amount of money in a 401k right now, I'd try to reallocate it to a cash fund. Make 3%, make 3%, make 3%, accumulate, and then in about 4, 5, 6 months, put it in at the bottom and leave it.
You know, we have a podcast listener named Charlie who is an older man, and he's retired, former law enforcement, and he reached out to me yesterday, and he goes, man, I'm watching this stock market, and it's making my heart stop. And I got to thinking, you're of an age, why do you have money at risk in the market at all? Because I listen to Mark Falter on the radio. I'm like, why aren't you taking the eggs and you're out there killing the chickens? I mean, that's just wrong.
It is the exact same reason why when we are up $350 on a slot machine, we will take and put that $350 back in the slot machine and walk out with nothing.
Yeah.
That is the way we are because we have an incredibly short memory.
Yes, we do indeed. So what does this look like a year from now? Put on your Nostradamus hat and tell us.
I think in a year, I think it's going to definitely shake its way clear in about a year. In 2 years, I definitely think it will, but this is going to be some time. And people got to realize too, this is a very unique opportunity that we have to get some things fixed that no other Republican candidate would have done this. Because think about something for a minute. As much as I like DeSantis from Florida, and much as I like some of these other people, nobody could do this because they all wanted one thing, re-election.
True.
Trump came in. He wasn't going to get reelected, so he's like, what do I care? And he's going to get some broke things fixed, and he's going to hopefully leave it good for the next guy.
Well, you know why I picked a year from now? Because there's always another election coming up, and the midterm is coming up in 2026. And you know, if what's happened in the last week continues into next year, it's going to be a bloodbath for Republicans.
It will, and that's the thing too, that they say there's a 72% chance of a sitting president getting reelected if there's no recession during his term. Well, that would also affect the midterms and Republicans getting elected. So he does need to kind of work quickly, but I don't know that that's his primary concern, to be honest with you. But it is going to make his life a lot harder if they lose the House and the Senate or both or either or yeah.
Well, so. I hope you're right with your Nostradamus hat on. I listen to you every Saturday morning at 9 o'clock on KCMO. Are you on different times?
I am on different times. Yeah, just go to retirementincomehour.com and you can see all my times. I actually don't even know how many times. I think I'm on 12 actual times during the weekend.
Well, I get something from it every time I do it. Kurt?
Yeah, can you hear me, Mark?
Yeah, I sure can. Yes.
Cool. Well, I have a question about Trump has talked a lot in like interviews and stuff about how we used to fund the government based on tariffs before we had an income tax. And he's teased getting rid of the income tax. I don't think he's actually going to do it, but is that a possibility? Is it true what he says, first of all, about that we funded the government with just tariffs and not income tax? And do you think that that's something that could happen again? Okay,
so that is true. And secondly, I don't think it's going to happen again because that's like saying there were cars back in the 1920s and then there's cars today. Look how similar they are. My goodness, they've changed so much. Matter of fact, one of my key staff people said to me this week, He said, and he's one that I listened to. He said, no, wait a minute now. He said, look what happened last time we tried this whole tariff thing. It was pre-depression, and it threw us into depression. And that caught me off guard for a minute. And I said, no, wait a minute now. That is like one of those sound bites you throw out there that the average Joe listens to and says, well, that makes sense. Then that means tariffs equal depression. No, it doesn't. I reminded him, I said, that was prior to the 1933 and 34 Securities Act. We didn't have any rules in place. There's a whole lot more moving parts in it than then. I think it could lower taxes. I don't think it's going to make taxes go away, but I will say that if he can make taxes go away, that would be fantastic. You know, he can pay for it another way.
He has talked about eliminating income taxes from anybody who makes under $75,000 a year. And think about what that would release to the consumption.
Yeah, that would be a very, very cool thing. And but you know, I think, well, now don't quote me on this, but I was reading on the wall of some museum I was in somewhere, and I think it was Washington, D.C. The only country that has ever paid us back, I think, is like the Netherlands or some little tiny country that if they paid it back, it wouldn't make a difference anyways. And nobody's ever paid us back. So he's trying to get what's due us, you know.
If we can get it, I was going to wrap this up, but I have so many other questions for you. I mean, you're such a font of information. If we get interest rates dropped, and I know he wants the Fed to lower interest rates, can we refinance that $36.5 trillion nut that we have on the debt side?
Yeah, I'm sorry, I should have went there because that's what my analyst and I were talking about the other night. As a matter of fact, what we were talking about on the radio show the other day. So what he's doing also is he is creating a synthetic form of inflation. We just had inflation, and if you think this through, he's creating a synthetic, kind of like a synthetic drug. It's just like the real drug, but it's man-made. Well, he's making a man-made form of inflation, meaning that through tax tariffs, Amazon.com, everything's going to cost more. Well, that's inflation. Well, that's going to force the Fed to lower rates, and then we refinance this stuff, and bada bing, bada boom, we're in better shape.
The guy might just be a genius.
Oh, he is a genius, yeah.
Unless you're on the left, and then it's Orange Man Bad, which is the other side of this whole thing. Mark Falter, the founder of Mid-American Wealth Advisory Group, host of the Retirement Income Hour on KCMO and lots of other places. You're a smart guy, and I always learn something every time we talk, and I hope you come back again.
Hey, I appreciate it, Dale. Thanks.
Take care. So now with Mark Falter behind us, as you say, now we're going to say the really stupid stuff about tariffs.
Okay, great. So
the kids are back.
I know all about tariffs. I'm an expert, and this is not financial advice. And
Right. We need to have a disclaimer, I guess, on something like this. All right. Well, spring is here, and that means the housing market is about to boom. And I know looking at your 401k right now is not a piece of cake, but you know what? Houses are still going to be bought. Houses are still going to be sold. And like Mark Falter said, look at where the market is, where it was a couple of years ago. I mean, this thing is like a hiccup in the history of the market. You still got to go out and buy that house. So I'm going to switch gears on you here and go the opposite way. Can I go the opposite way?
Sure.
TheRedCarpetLender.com. Because, and I'm going to go opposite today, and we'll talk about Michael Schroer in a minute, but as Chad Taylor told us last week, you know, it's really a better, smoother process if you've got that pre-approval letter. So get your mortgage pre-approved. Find out what you can afford at TheRedCarpetLender.com. Chad's going to take care of you. He's the guy who did my mortgage. And then you walk in with that pre-approval letter, and you have the confidence that, hey, I can afford this house. This house, not so much, and I can do better than this house over here. It gives you that confidence that you need, and you don't need perfect credit. Chad can get you financed as low as a 580 credit score. You don't need 20% down. Most loan programs between 0 and 5% down. Licensed on both sides of the state line in Missouri and Kansas. That is Chad Taylor, loan advisor at TheRedCarpetLender.com. Don't forget the word TheRedCarpetLender.com. Chad will roll out the red carpet, and he will take care of you. Longtime personal friend of mine. The only glitch in his character is he's a Raiders fan. If you can look beyond that, you'll get a great deal with Chad.
Fantastic.
Okay, so you've got the pre-approval letter from Chad. Now you're going to go house shopping. Michael Schroer is the guy who can get that done. SCHROER. Michael Schroer. You can reach him on email at Michael Schroer, his name spelled out, 56 at gmail.com. He's a broker with RE/MAX Elite in Lee's Summit, and that office phone number is 816-373 8400. Michael works all the time. Doesn't care if we give out his cell phone either. So reach him on the cell phone at 816-520-9342. But man, I'm telling you, every time I go to Facebook, he's selling a piece of property.
Yeah, I'm trying to pull it up right now because he has tons.
Yeah, he's selling this house. He's selling that house. And he can get you in every stage of life, moving from that apartment into your first house. I still remember that feeling, Kurt. You know that feeling very well. And then, when you start having kids, you need a lot more bedrooms. He can help you there. Kids go off to college. That's the cycle of life. You need to downsize, get something new. That's where Michael can come in. Or you've got that piece of land and you've got a dream. He's a guy who can make that dream come true. Michael Schroer, real estate pro at Remax Elite in Lee's Summit. There you go. The sold sign is out. Look at that house.
Yeah, that's nice.
Yep. So that's Michael taking care of you there.
And there's his contact information on there as well.
Yeah. So this is why we ask you to watch the video version of the show. Number one, now that we've got the new cord over here that costs...
It's actually this one.
Oh, is it that one?
Yeah.
Yeah, that does look newer.
Yeah.
$8.
Yeah.
Right. Now we get to see Kurt's face because of an $8 expense.
Yep.
So get us on YouTube, get us on Rumble. You can get us the old-fashioned way, get us anywhere you get podcasts. But here's the most important part, and the Mark Falter segment is one of the reasons why. Help us spread the word. Let's calm people down, because I swear there are friends of mine who are on the other side, Kurt, and I've had to stop following them because their hair is on fire every day.
Yeah.
And it's always the same. Orange man bad. Look what Trump did. I mean, I saw today. It's like, we had soldiers come home who were killed in Europe and Trump was on a golf course. Orange man bad. I mean, good Lord, take a deep breath, people. We are going to talk about the politics of tariffs. And for the first part of this segment, we're going to go back to 1988, because where politicians change their tune all the time, you will find in this interview that Donald Trump, the real estate magnate at the time, he wasn't even on TV at that time, right? He had.
I don't think so.
The Apprentice hadn't started
was
yet.
like mid 90s, early 90s.
So he wasn't on TV. He was just like a celebrity in New York, right?
Yeah.
He was a name that everybody knew. He built buildings in New York, and he went on Oprah in 1988 and listen to Donald Trump in 1988 and contrast that with where he is today.
You took out a full-page ad in major U.S. newspapers last year criticizing U.S. foreign policy. What would you do differently, Donald?
I'd make our allies, forgetting about the enemies you can't talk to so easily, I'd make our allies pay their fair share. We're a debtor nation. Something's going to happen over the next number of years with this country, because you can't keep going on losing $200 billion, and yet we let Japan come in and dump everything right into our markets and everything. It's not free trade. If you ever go to Japan right now and try to sell something, forget about it, Oprah. Just forget about it. It's almost impossible. They don't have laws against it. They just make it impossible. They come over here, they sell their cars, their VCRs, they knock the hell out of our companies. And hey, I have tremendous respect for the Japanese people. I mean, you can respect somebody that's beating the hell out of you, but they are beating the hell out of this country. Kuwait, they live like kings. The poorest person in Kuwait, they live like kings. And yet they're not paying. We make it possible for them to sell their oil. Why aren't they paying us 25% of what they're making? It's a joke.
This sounds like political presidential talk to me, and I know people have talked to you about whether or not you want to run. Would you ever?
Probably not, but I do get tired of seeing the country ripped off.
Why would you not?
I just don't think I really have the inclination to do it. I love what I'm doing. I really like it.
Also, it doesn't pay as well.
No, it doesn't. But, I just probably wouldn't do it, Oprah. I probably wouldn't, but I do get tired of seeing what's happening with this country. And if it got so bad, I would never want to rule it out totally, because I really am tired of seeing what's happening with this country, how we're really making other people live like kings, and we're not.
What do you think of this year's presidential race, the way it's shaped?
Yeah, we don't have to watch that part.
Yeah. Well,
isn't that incredible, though?
That is incredible. I mean, he's been so consistent in all that. And
even the way he talks, he does the same thing now in his speeches where he's like, China, they're coming after us, but I have a lot of respect for the Chinese people.
Yeah.
That's where this is.
I love China.
I love China. But they're killing us on trade,
They're raping us. He said that before, too.
Yeah.
So he's been very consistent. The speeches he's making today, the things he's doing today, he was talking about in 1988. So surely the other side thinks tariffs, especially on China, is a bad idea because orange man bad, right? Orange man bad. Anything Trump wants to do is a terrible idea, right, Nancy Pelosi?
In terms of tariffs, I think it's interesting to note that the average U.S. MFN tariff on Chinese goods coming into the United States is 2%, whereas the average Chinese MFN tariff on U.S. goods going into China is 35%. Is that reciprocal? In terms of jobs, this is the biggest and cruelest hoax of all.
Beat that lectern.
Not only do we not have market access, not only do they have prohibitive tariffs, not only are our exports not let in very specifically, but China benefits with at least 10 million jobs from U.S.-China trade.
Wow. That was from 1996. She looked pretty good, didn't she?
Yeah, she's probably 68 in that clip. That was 30 years ago.
It's better than she does now.
Yeah.
Okay, let's switch gears. Chuck Schumer. Now, there were 4 Republicans, including Rand Paul of Kentucky, who joined all the Democrats to stop Trump from being mean to Canada, to hold the reins back on Canada. Chuck Schumer on Canada and China.
Skipping an ad. Hold on.
Oh.
Okay.
No freebies.
Nope. Here we go. See what he has to say.
You know, Cayuga County is now our 3rd biggest dairy county.
That's a little too close for comfort there. Can we lower the resolution a little bit?
And the farms have more cows and everything. Canada, the new guy, Trudeau, is saying they can't sell it in Canada. It's against NAFTA. I'm not going to abide by that. Okay? It's hurting our dairy farmers right here in central New York. So they don't even abide by the rules.
So there's the problem. What
I don't know. I'm going to figure this out. I have some ideas. I've talked to others. But we have to have a U.S.-based tribunal that if you think you're being taken advantage of by China, Canada, or anyone else, you go and it can impose its own remedies.
Wow. I mean, that's
Mr. Tough Guy.
Yeah, no doubt. It sounds to me like Nancy and Chuck are kind of for what Donald Trump is doing.
It would seem that way, wouldn't it?
I mean, they can't come out now and say that because orange man bad. How about Barack Obama? What do you think about Barack Obama?
What do I think about him?
Yeah.
Or
Where's he going to be on all
What do I
this?
think he's going to say?
What's
Let's
he going
find
to
out.
say?
A healthy economy in the 21st century also depends on our ability to buy and sell goods in markets across the globe. And make no mistake, this administration is committed to pursuing expanded trade and new trade agreements. It is absolutely essential to our economic future. And each time that we have met with the G20 and the G8, we have reaffirmed the need to fight against protectionism. But no trading system will work if we fail to enforce our trade agreements, those that have already been signed. So when, as happened this weekend, we invoke provisions of existing agreements, we do so not to be provocative or to promote self-defeating protectionism. We do so because enforcing trade agreements is part and parcel of maintaining an open and free trading system.
Yeah. So there's Barack Obama on it. So it's only bad when Orange Man does it.
Yeah, I mean, that was a typical Obama clip too, because he always says like both sides of the argument when he gives speeches. You ever notice that?
I have.
He's like, well, we shouldn't be protectionist, but also, we should enforce our. So it's like he's just covering his ass,
Well, the only person who's been consistent on this since 1988 is Donald Trump.
Yeah.
He has said the exact same things all along, and now for the second time, he's president of the United States, and he's trying to get that done. Now, we've learned a lot about tariffs so far in the episode. You've come to some conclusions about tariffs. What do you think at this point?
Yeah, I mean, I think it's probably a good idea. It just has to be, we have to commit to it, and we have to do it the right way. And like Mark Falter said, it's not going to happen overnight. It's going to take time. And I think, it's also, I kind of changed my opinion on this a little bit because we've talked about before how Trump is using them as like a negotiating tool.
Right.
And that has some value. But in order to actually like see the economic impact of that, of bringing back American manufacturing and, not buying everything from China and all this stuff, we have to actually implement it and it be like predictable. You know what I mean? It can't be like, oh, well, maybe we'll do it. Maybe we won't. If you do this, if you do what we want, we'll take it away or we'll scale it back. Like, no, you just have to do it. And then, down the line, it's going to kick in, but it's going to take time. And unfortunately, people are so short-sighted. We live in a short-sighted, consumerist economy where people just want things as cheap and efficient as possible. Now they have DoorDash is going to be offering interest-free payments, deferred payments on DoorDash.
On food?
On food, yeah. So that's the kind of economy we live in. We don't live in an economy where people care about protecting American labor or whatever. People don't even have that frame of reference. So we just have to stick to it and hope that it'll have the desired effect. But I do think that it is going to be good in the long run. We just have to stick to it.
My opinion on it is evolving because, as I told Mark Falter, when I first started hearing him talk about it, I thought, well, it's just going to be a tax on me. It's more money than I'm going to pay out of my pocket for something. And to the point that was made earlier, back in the day, we didn't have an income tax. America was funded by tariffs and fees. We're never going to lose the income tax, and I don't want to get hammered with both of those things. But taking the long-term look at it, as Trump is, and why the unions, especially the automotive unions, are saying, go Trump, this is what we need, is because if you look at America from a production perspective, we're a hollowed out husk. Yeah. And when you hollow out the husk of production, it has downstream impact, like, the other businesses that support that manufacturing, all the way down to restaurants, right, that support the people who work in the plant, which is no longer there. So, I hear the other side saying, well, how long is it going to take to build up that manufacturing? It might take a while. But if we don't have that, if all we are is a consumer society, where the job's going to come from?
Yeah, and who's going to own our stuff? You know what I mean? We talked about this the other day off camera, but it's just crazy to think about. We buy all of China's stuff, right?
We do.
So we send all of our money to China, and then they take our money, and then they buy with our money
our debt,
our farmland, our debt. Our stocks. Why do you think the stock market has been up as much as it has? What I mean? It's all inflated. So, and then there's also, there's the foreign policy angle of the negotiating tactic or whatever, but there's also a national security angle to protectionism economically because, who's going to make our tanks and our airplanes and stuff like that? You know what I mean? We get into, hopefully not, God willing, but we get into some kind of prolonged conflict with China or Russia or the BRICS nations or whatever. Where's our steel coming from? Yeah. And that trickles down too. That trickles down to the automotive sector. It trickles down to technology, development and all these things. So
learn from history, because if you go back to World War II and our being sucked into World War II, we basically put an embargo on oil for Japan. And Japan had an oh shit moment, and it's like, well, we got to take these guys out. Let's set them back 10 years, and then we can continue to do what we're doing over here. Right. It didn't work out too well for the Japanese, but that was their thought process behind it. So we have a lot more to get to here, and some very interesting stuff that we're going to tie the word oligarchy, or is it oligarchy? Oligarchy, oligarch.
Oli.
We're going to tie that to tariffs too, because everything ties together in this episode. Kind of like your roof that's keeping you dry. Hopefully it is. We just came out of some stormy weather. How's your roof holding up? You need to get it inspected. Get my guys from Royal Roofing and Solar up on that roof, and let's do a roof health test. Let's find out what's going on there. I mean, Austin sends me pictures all the time of roofs that were put on by people other than Royal Roofing and Solar. There are shysters out there walking up and down streets who you've never seen before, never will see again, and they'll give you a roof all right, but you'll need it fixed really quick. Royal Roofing and Solar is a company that's been around for a long time. In fact, they branched out into solar as well, and if your house is a candidate, and Mike Dale will take you through the 16 questions to let you know if you're even a candidate for it. And if you are, they'll put the right system there, and maybe you can kiss your Evergy bill goodbye. Starts with a phone call, 816-540-7057. Roofedbyroyal.com is the website. Find out everything you need to know there. But the first step is to get my friends from Royal up on that roof, do that inspection. Let's find out where it stands and see if you are a candidate for solar. then we all celebrate. Sometimes we celebrate, and sometimes we just meet at Funhouse Pizza in Lee's Summit or Blue Springs. Jim Dingman's outfit there, 7 Highway in Blue Springs, 50 Highway in Lee's Summit. We do have a broadcast coming up there in May. We'll tell you more about that in the weeks to come as we put the thing together. But as we record this on Saturday, I'm going to spend some of my Saturday afternoon at Funhouse Pizza because the family of John Bauman is going to be gathering there. John is a dear friend of mine, KFKF listener from way back, worked with my son Jonathan. His family is very tight with my son Jonathan. And I say that longtime friends, Kurt, but John and I had never met until our last broadcast at Funhouse Pizza. John was in the crowd, and we had a great time catching up and telling stories, especially about my youngest son Jonathan, who he knows very well, and he died. And so we're going to do his celebration of life this afternoon at Funhouse Pizza, because it's where he liked to hang out. It's where you should hang out. It's where you should take that birthday party, that anniversary party, team meeting, whatever the case may be, or order pizza to go. Funhouse Pizza is the best pizza in town because Jim Dingman piles those toppings so high. It's a great pizza. Cold drinks, too. Get online there and order your pizza in advance. It'll be ready when you pick it up at funhousepizza.com. There you go. Good folks there. Okay, so we've thrown around this term, Kurt, oligarchy, because that's what the left is saying, that all Donald Trump cares about are the oligarchs. As Bernie would say, the billionaires, the billionaires. They used to say millionaires and billionaires. They can't say millionaires anymore because all of those Democrats are now multi-millionaires.
Yeah.
How'd they do that on a $147,000 a year salary?
It's a great question.
And one that may be answered, because I think that's where Elon Musk is going next. It's like, okay, how did these people, because I've always had that question. If you've done nothing but worked for the government as a senator or representative or whatever, how did you go from $147,000 or $74, whatever it is, $1,000 a year to being a multimillionaire, to the point where now you can't just say millionaires and billionaires.
Yeah.
Even Bernie's a millionaire.
Yeah.
Multi-millionaire.
He's doing very well.
Yeah.
Good for him.
So, and I guess I have a little bit of understanding about oligarchy, but Victor Davis Hanson is a historian. He is well respected on the right, and it's going to take 8 minutes for him to say this, but it's 8 minutes well worth the time here. Victor Davis Hanson, author, historian, talking about oligarchs, the oligarchy, whatever you want to call it, and then we'll tie it into tariffs.
Hello, this is Victor Davis Hanson for the Daily Signal. Have you heard this word lately that's been bandied about? Oligarchs, autocrats, dictators, but mostly aristocrats. In other words, that supposedly a small cabal of very wealthy people have snatched control of the government. And the Democrats, as the loyal opposition of the fighting middle class, is trying to stop it. They use the word plutocrats. Oligarch, just from the Greek word, the rule by the few. Plutocrat means the rule by the wealthy. Aristocrat means rule by the so-called best, or those people who claim they're better born. But they're using all of these terms to castigate, apparently, the relationship between Elon Musk and Donald Trump. But here's what's ironic. We didn't hear any of this during the Obama years, during the Clinton years, or during the Biden years. In other words, for 20 years, no one mentioned that the country was controlled by oligarchs. Let me just look at the list for you of the 10 wealthiest people in the United States. Elon Musk, Jeff Bezos, Mark Zuckerberg, Warren Buffett, Larry Page, Sergey Brin, Larry Ellison, Bill Gates, Mike Bloomberg. They all have one thing in common. They're all worth over $100 billion. And until recently, I would say the 2024 election, they were all against the Republican Party and were lavish donors for the Democrats. Why they're angry now is because Jeff Bezos's Washington Post, which was a vehicle, a money-losing but still influential vehicle for leftist and democratic agendas, decided not to endorse either Kamala Harris nor Donald Trump. Elon Musk, who voted for Hillary Clinton in 2016 when he was beloved by the left because of Tesla, because of SpaceX, because of Neuralink, because of Starlink, also, according to what he said, voted for Joe Biden in 2020. Mark Zuckerberg, remember, put $419 million in his various PACs to absorb the work of registrars to great effect in the 2020 election. Mike Bloomberg probably has the single record. He used $1 billion to try to capture the 2020 Democratic primary nomination. $1 billion. So why are they so angry at the oligarchs when the oligarchs were synonymous with Democrats? And I should point out that George Soros put in $125 million in the 2022 midterms. He has the all-time record. It's assumed that he has spent $22 billion for left-wing candidates and left-wing PACs and left-wing foundations. Sam Bankman-Fried, the felon, he put over $100 million in the from 2020 to 2022, all on the side of Democrats and left-wing candidates. His mother was a bundler, a stealthy bundler for billionaires in Silicon Valley. So what's going on? And in the one last data point, in the 2024 election cycle, the Biden campaign, the Harris campaign, and the Trump campaign together raised $4.7 billion. But guess what? The Democrats raised $1 billion more than did Trump. So what is going on? There is an anger now that for the first time in 20 years, over 3 administrations, Clinton, Obama, and Biden, for the first time, there are multi-billionaires who are starting to question their Democratic loyalty. Larry Ellison, Elon Musk, Mark Zuckerberg, perhaps even Jeff Bezos. Most billionaires are still on the side of the left, but they don't tolerate any apostates. So they're angry they don't have a lock on the oligarchs, so to speak. I'll just finish with one reflection. Why did they start to bolt? Because the Democratic Party was so sure of the support of billionaires, they started making demands upon them and saying, you're going to give this amount of money. And if you want to play ball with us, this is the monopoly that will control artificial intelligence. You are included, you're not. We're going to get the FBI to partner with you, Mark Zuckerberg, and Meta, Facebook, to make sure you ban information injurious to the Biden campaign. You, Twitter, the old Twitter, you're going to have FBI. And they revolted. And Donald Trump came along and said, I welcome all of you because I'm not going to tell you who to vote for or what to do, but I'm going to look at you in a nationalist, populist manner. You are the William Knutsons, the Henry Fords, the Henry Kaisers of the War Production Board. In other words, I'm going to go to bat for you so that you do not have your wealth confiscated in China, so that people in Europe do not impose special taxes on you just because you're making too much money or try to censor your news. In other words, I'm going to try to enlist you on the behalf of the country in a patriotic nationalist fashion. And they found that argument more persuasive than they did, you better give to us, and this is what you're going to do. And as a result, 30% of the billionaires bolted, and are either now neutral or they favor the Republicans. The vast majority, to repeat, still favor Democrats. The Democratic Party is the party of the very wealthy, plutocracy, and the billionaire class, but they demand absolute loyalty and solidarity, and any defections or apostates then cause them to go, I don't know what the word is, ballistic, that anybody would doubt their ability to control the big money in the United States.
Yeah. So ballistic is what they're going, wouldn't you say?
Yeah, and I mean, we just talked a couple weeks ago, I think week before last, about that tour that Bernie and AOC were going on, like the Fight Oligarchy tour.
Right.
You think they're talking about, George Soros? Do you think they're talking about Michael Bloomberg? I don't think so.
And aside on Soros for a second, because the FCC is now controlled by the Republicans, and the one guy who stayed, who was the minority under Biden, talked about this week how the George Soros deal of 200 plus radio stations for Odyssey flew through the FCC with no checks or balances. He said, we've never done that before.
Yeah.
We take individual station licenses and put them through what the law is. And they did none of that with Odyssey, and it was all because of George Soros.
Yeah. Yeah, they know where their bread's buttered, that's for sure.
And it's projection. We talk about projection a lot on the podcast. They're out there saying oligarchs and billionaires. It's because they're doing it. Right? Think about this. Who's lost the most during the tariffs so far with the stock market cratering? Rich people. Like
the people who have the most in it.
Donald Trump.
Yeah.
Elon Musk. The cabinet, the people that they've appointed, the very wealthy in this country. So one of these things is true. Either Trump is stupid or he's got a plan that's ultimately going to benefit the country. So who's going to benefit by the end game? We just talked about this. The hollowed out husk of the United States manufacturing should come back if this works. And that would benefit the middle class. Tax cuts he's talking about benefit the middle class. As I talked to Mark Falter, he wants to end federal taxes on those making $75,000 and under. Eliminate the taxes. How does that benefit the billionaires and the oligarchs? It doesn't, right? This is a populist message like Victor Davis Hanson was just talking about. I feel so good about this podcast because we've had two really smart people on it, Mark Falter and Victor Davis Hanson, and then you got a couple of dum-dums like us who try and make it make some sense here. But let me share something I found and ask you whether Republicans or Democrats are on the side and have been on the side for working Americans. This is a 2-clip thing that I found on Facebook. On the top clip is then Governor Ronald Reagan of California. California used to be a red state. Did you know that, Kurt?
Oh, yeah.
It was definitely a red state.
It still has the most Republicans of any state in America. It just has way more Democrats.
The bottom of the clip is Kamala Harris running for president in 2024. And, we didn't make this up. This is actual clip information that's out there. Ronald Reagan followed by Kamala Harris.
Oh, sorry.
And most people don't realize it because the taxes are hidden in the so-called business taxes. The politician that stands up and yells, oh, let's save the little man, let's tax business, and everybody yells hooray. But they haven't figured out that every tax on business is just a part of the cost of production. And the customer winds up paying it when he buys the product. It's a hidden sales tax. There's 116 of them in the suit of clothes that each one of us has wearing.
We're going to have to raise corporate taxes, and we're going to have to make sure that the biggest corporations and billionaires pay their fair share. That's just it. It's about paying their fair share. I am not mad at anyone for achieving success, but everyone should pay their fair share.
Today,
That's been the argument all along. Pay your fair share.
I was waiting for the other shoe to drop because I thought it was going to be Kamala like, so taxes are when you pay your money from your paycheck and it goes to the government. That's called taxes. And big rich people need to pay their more taxes.
Yeah. So Ronald Reagan had it right and Harris had it wrong because we all end up paying it. And that's my feeling on tariffs too. When the tariffed products come into this country, if you buy them, you're going to pay a little bit more for them. When they say on the left that we're only going to raise taxes on the very wealthy and the businesses, It won't affect you at all. That's complete bullshit.
Yeah.
Because when you go out and you buy something, let's say you buy an American-made vehicle, right? And they've taxed Ford. We've taxed the evil Ford Corporation. You think Ford's just going to take that in the shorts, or are they going to make an F-150 a little more expensive?
Yeah. I mean, and also people are buying imported cars more than ever now. So
I have one. And now this tariff's going into effect, and I got to wonder if I need like a muffler for the damn thing. You know, am I going to pay more for it?
Yeah. Yeah.
So it always comes down to the little man. But I think we've shown you how what Donald Trump is doing, what Ronald Reagan was talking about in the 70s, show you that this party is on the side of the little guy. And Victor Davis Hanson showed you that the big, big money is on the left. So all the other side has is orange man bad. What is their plan? Okay? To allow other countries to continue to block their markets to us through tariffs while we're supposed to do what? And that's that graphic that Donald Trump showed, right? It showed all of the percentages that we were being tariffed. Things made in the United States, you know, and then sold in another country. Well, that country got a tariff. Well, we didn't have that on our end. So now he's imposing that on our end, and he's only doing it at the most a 50% tariff of what we're being tariffed.
Yeah. And to be clear, I think it's not all just tariffs, but it's like all inclusive, you know, cost of doing business. So it's whatever percentages that these other countries are charging for, overcharging for American goods. So you see China 67%, and then the reciprocal tariff is 34%. So my understanding is there's a baseline 10% across the board tariff. So every single country will have a 10%, and then certain countries like China, Vietnam, you can see these here, South Africa, Pakistan, etc. They have additional reciprocal tariffs.
Well, China,
Laos, 48%. What are we buying from Laos?
I have no idea. Probably a shirt. So China has already retaliated, and they added a number to their tariff that they currently have in place that takes it to 101%. How is that possible? But that's what they said they were going to do. Yet some of this is negotiation. Argentina stepped forward and said, we want to be the first country that has a 0-0 tariff. And Trump's like, okay, we could talk about that. Trump says he's getting phone calls from every leader in the world. It's like, okay, now what can we do? And that is the art of the deal, as Falter was talking about. He came in hot, right?
Yep.
And now he's answering the phone.
Yeah, here's a clip of that.
And those tariffs have come in, and every country's called us. That's the beauty of what we do. We put ourselves in the driver's seat. If we would have asked some of these countries, most of these countries, to do us a favor, they would have said no. Now they'll do anything for us. But we have tariffs, they've been set.
Yeah, it's kind of like audio's not great, but he said every country's called us.
Right.
Quote.
So orange man bad, tariffs are bad, and we're going to use Democrat judges to block or slow down all of your policies, like deporting criminals here illegally. So that's the hill that you want to die on. You want to get a district court judge to stop Donald Trump from deporting the worst of the worst, because the hill you want to die on is you want rapists living in our backyard who should be in another country, who should be in their home country because they're here illegally.
Yeah.
That's the hill you want to die on.
And speaking of oligarchy, where did those district court judges get their funding from? You know, that would be worth asking.
It would. You know, how did they get on the short list for Barack Obama and Joe Biden? And really, not that I want to give them any ideas, but why hasn't a Chicago district court judge said, I'm going to put a hold on all these tariffs? Mm-hmm. Why not? I mean, they're freewheeling until Congress steps in or the Supreme Court steps in and says, stop doing that.
Yeah.
Congress has the ability because, you know, the courts are not on an island by themselves. You know, everybody says, well, Trump can't do whatever he wants because we've got co-equal branches of government. Well, the number one branch of government is Congress. Congress, get off your ass and put some curbs on this stuff, or it's going to continue to happen. All right. We continue spending at least $2 trillion more than we take in as our debt closes in on $37 trillion. So what's the other side? What is your plan? Well, we just want to keep spending into oblivion. Print, spend. That's the other side of this. They'll never grab hold of the reins and say, we're spending too much. Bernie, in Bernie's wet dream of he gets everything he wants, do you know what his number is?
For what?
Spending.
Oh, unlimited?
10 trillion. 10 trillion. We just took in a record $5 trillion in revenue. Where's the other 5 come from? He doesn't give a shit. It's going to go on the bottom line. It's going to add to the debt. He doesn't care. He's like, what, 130? He's going to be dead anytime soon.
Yeah.
And he'll be still getting Social Security long after he's dead in his wet dream that he has. Okay, so let's revisit this in a year. Let's do that because it's going to take some time, as Mark Falter said. And I told you that when Trump won, the clock was ticking. I don't know what the day count is. You might think I have that in the back of my head. I don't. But the 2026 midterm is coming up. And if Trump has fixed some of this and we're going the right way, and you can demonstrate that we're going the right way. By the way, the jobs report that came out on March was almost double what they projected it to be. So there's that in the tailwind as well. But in a year, if it's still a train wreck and there's been no progress made, the Democrats are going to cakewalk into the midterm because, you know, it's the right where we are and the left where they are. And then there's this big middle of the country that said, Harris, Trump. We had 4 years of Biden and we got hornswoggled on that deal. So they went with Trump. They're finicky, right?
Yeah.
And they're going to vote their pocketbook. So if their 401k is down 40%, the Democrats are going to walk in. So Trump knows the clock is ticking. So let's revisit it in a year and see where we are.
576 days, by the way, until the midterm election.
Okay.
So you can start tracking now.
I'll put that in my phone. We'll have that as the countdown clock to hopefully a better America under Donald Trump. A better car for you is going to come from Dale Reynolds at Dale's Collision Repair Shop in Blue Springs. We put up videos of this on the Facebook page every once in a while. When he's restored something, he is meticulous to make sure that that car, no matter what you've done to it, comes out showroom new. He had one this week where it was like a tree had fallen on a truck and just like crunched the bed area of the truck. I can't wait to see the after on that because Dale's...
find it.
Yeah, okay.
Is it just under his personal page?
I think it is. Dale's Body Shop in Blue Springs is the original. They've been around since 1987. And if you wreck it and that wrecker says, hey, man, where are we taking this thing? You only need to know one name, and it's a name you should know. There's that truck, by the way.
Yeah.
Look at that. I can't wait to see the after on that because I know he's going to do a fantastic job. You might think that's total, but I don't think that's total.
Yeah, it looks like the axle may be okay. I mean, that's the main thing, right?
Yeah, because I know so much about cars, almost as much as I knew about oligarchs before this episode. All right, Dale's Body Shop, Blue Springs. That's the only name you need to know if you wreck that car or if you want it restored.
Sorry.
37 years, folks from coming from miles around. In fact, on the Kansas side, when they wreck a police car, they send it to Dale's in Blue Springs. That's how good he is. Got to have great insurance, too. And there's no better name in insurance than State Farm. Like a good neighbor, State Farm is there. And my neighbor in Blue Springs, for the 30 years I've lived there, he's been a State Farm agent for 50 years. Bob Watson's his name, 816-229-7878. Auto, home, life, he covers it all. And he can take care of you in Missouri and Kansas at 816-229-7878. His staff have been like family to me, and I've had to call them on some of my worst days. When I've wrecked a car, or one of my kids has wrecked a car, or I got my 15th speeding ticket, that got me a sit down with Bob, and it wasn't fun. But I'm better now. Bundle your home and car insurance. You'll save even more. Bob Watson, State Farm, 816-229-7878. Get a rate quote. Tariffs are a touchy subject on Capitol Hill, even among Republicans. I told you Rand Paul voted with Democrats to block tariffs on Canada. Our favorite senator at Dale Carter's America, I'd love to have him on the podcast because I just love watching him tear down judicial nominees who have not even read the Constitution. He is John Kennedy from Louisiana talking about tariffs.
Are more art, in my opinion, than science. Tariffs are more art, in my opinion, than science. Tariffs are like whiskey. A little whiskey under the right circumstances can be refreshing. Too much whiskey under the wrong circumstances, and you end up drunk as a goat. We just don't know right now, but we'll know within the next 6 months. If it works, let's take a dozen. If it doesn't work, the president's going to have to recalibrate.
All right, there you go. So this weekend, no matter what you're doing, don't get drunk as a goat. Have you ever seen a drunk goat?
No, they do kind of act drunk, though. I like also, if it works, we'll take a dozen.
That's it. Yep. It's like when we were painting our dining room and my wife wanted it blue and it's like, no, not that blue. Not that blue. And finally the painters just put stripes of every blue in the dining room. Yeah. Every blue you could think of. Yeah. And they said, if you like it, we love it. All right. Until next week, we'll continue with our quest here to make America great again. This is Dale Carter's America.
The views expressed on Dale Carter's America are Dale's and Kurt Wheeler's. They do not necessarily reflect the views of KFKF or Steel City Media. Comments can be sent to dalecartersamerica@gmail.com. Check back for weekly episodes. Subscribe, spread the word, and give us a 5-star review. Thanks for being a part of Dale Carter's America.